I wonder, how many of you guys know what Vaporwave is? Oh, that's quite a lot. So for you that don't know, let's try with some sort of definition. Maybe something more academic for now. So according to Oxford Handbook of Music and Visuality, Vaporwave is a musical visual aesthetic characterized by its recreation and appropriation of retrofuturistic rendering of global capitalism and technological obsolescence. I don't know what does it mean. But I have, on the lighter note, I have a definition provided by a YouTube user. So for him, Vaporwave is 80s, 90s capitalism, product placement, consumerism, Japan, Pepsi, Coke, and don't forget aesthetics. So certainly we can say that Vaporwave is a music genre and visual movement inspired by many things from the past. For me, Vaporwave, often ironic and anti-consumerism and anti-capitalism, feeds on appropriation of corporate music, nostalgic hits and forgotten tunes. The term Vaporwave comes from vaporware. Vaporware is a product that was announced, sometimes with many promises, but it was never released because it failed or wasn't intended to be released. Vaporwave often reminds us that every product advertised is some kind of vaporware, because every ad is promising something more than it is. Especially ads from 80s and 90s. They were promising us this bright, colorful future that never came. So in that regard, Vaporwave is hauntological in its nature, because failed past promises of the utopian future and the past itself hand us through Vaporwave, nostalgic samples, audio artifacts of forgotten late-night pop tunes, and retro-futuristic visuals. Musicologist Adam Harper also points out that the term Vaporwave is reminiscent of Karl Marx's passage from Communist Manifesto, "All that is solid melts into air," which refer to constant change that society is subjected to under bourgeois capitalism. In this context, besides obvious hints towards Marxism, Vaporwave is revolutionary. Its anti-capitalism and anti-consumerism is showing through emphasize capitalism and consumerism. So here are some essential artists. It's a subjective choice. As you can see, there's a lot of Japanese letters, full width letters. The names are really weird. Here are some Vaporwave's main subgenres, in my also subjective choice. Vapor trap, which is a mix between trap music and Vaporwave. For example, Blank Banshee is one of the artists. He played last week in Warsaw. What is interesting, he was masked. He played with mask on. There's also Future Funk, which mixes Vaporwave with French house, Molosoft, which emphasize the ambience of malls and gallerias. So it's hard to discuss music without examples. So I prepared 2 albums to discuss. Let's give it a listen. There's also a track. So, first album is Floral Shop by Macintosh Plus. It's one of the most famous examples of Vaporwave. And the track you just heard is called Lisa Franku for 20 Gendai no Compu, which means Lisa Frank for 20 modern computing. This track is heavy something Diana Ross track called It's Your Move. It was upbeat 80s R&B, and here the track is chopped and screwed, edited, decontextualized. It took something canny and made it uncanny. So on the visual level, you can see the basic elements of aesthetics: Roman bust, anonymous city skyline, pink colors. So let's go to the second one. It's I don't know Japanese, so I have to check. It's Sapporo Contemporary by Juhu Desuku Virtual, which can be translated Contemporary Sapporo and Virtual Information Desk. In this album, our author took whole tracks, Japanese tracks, music, corporate production music, repackaged it, and changed the context by adding new names of tracks, new album art, and so on. So what do we have next? So after listening to the track, you can deduct some basic production techniques used, pitch shifting, slowing down, and so on. So the question is it edit or remix? Maybe you're wondering. For me, it's neither. Edits and remixes always work in the context of original track. There is always some kind of attribution or hint. Edits and remixes don't try to take the original song out of the context. So from after Middle Ages, anonymity stopped being main mode of authorship, and it became a tool. So it was done on purpose, and Vaporwave artists also use anonymity on the purpose. So similarly to creators of stock music, Vaporwave artists are also anonymous. They are using plethora of pseudonyms, aliases. They're used to different strategies of anonymity, virtual authorships, often using Japanese kanji, as we saw before, Unicode full with letters, to make it harder to look for, maybe to make it hard to search for in Google. The prevalent disregard for authorship and copyright also erases the notion of absolute ownership over work of music, creates the feeling that we don't listen to single artists but the genre itself. When listening to playlists, for example, on Spotify or YouTube, we lose the track who we are listening to. The individual artist stops being the center of our attention, but instead this faceless, haunting hodgepodge of remnants of original songs, contributions of Vaporwave artists, pop culture references, ghosts of global capitalism. So we don't have time to discuss history. These are one of two first albums in Vaporwave. For me, Vaporwave is sort of directly on the, or indirectly influenced by Plunderphonics. The term was coined by John Oswald in 1985. The music is made, Plunderphonic music is made by taking pop songs, for example, Dolly Parton, and slowing down, stretching, and so on. So for John Oswald, track song was just a matrix which you can freely edit and use as an active listener for our own purpose. So Plunderphonics in its nature was against copyright, modern notion of creativity and originality. So for artists, Plunderphonic artists, it became an obstacle. John Oswald said famously, if creativity is a field, copyright is a fence. So here we have two main, for me, theories of authorship. Two last slides. So romantic authorship and postmodern authorship. in the romantic authorship, the author is a solitary genius, lonely island, inspired only by himself, his original creator. He owns the work he created. He's the parent of the creator of the work. Postmodern authorship, on the other hand, rejects originality, authorship, and so on. For Ronald Barthes and Michel Foucault, authorship, author was dead. So for Ronald Barthes, author is merely a scriptor, and work is just a tissue of quotation drawn from the innumerable centers of culture. So, where does author in virtual plaza lies here? It's near postmodern authorship, but it has own distinction. It's created by internet culture, which has its own social norms about copyright and authorship, and also its own critique of capitalism. And ironically, it is like capitalism. So, anonymous Reddit user, he was a deleted account, so it's hard to say who was it. He said, Vaporwave is not respectful of the original artist. In its fact, very disrespectful. This is, in a sense, how the genre began. Vaporwave is just like capitalism. It violently appropriates the work of others, relabels and recombines it so that it's impossible to decipher the process that produces it, and it takes over the world. So, thank you. That will be all because time's out. If you want to know what Virtual Plaza is and so on, you can ask me later.